Hello and welcome today to a look at Snowtopia Ski Resort Tycoon. This one comes to us from T4 Games and has just released into Steam Early Access. And in this video we're going to look at the mechanics of the game, what's good about it, what's bad about it, and most importantly, is it worth your money? So let's jump into it. So, jumping into a game of Snowtopia, you'll be given a fresh map with natural features such as mountains and lakes to design your resort around. You'll have to first place a builder's lodge, build ski lifts to get people up into the mountains, and then design the slopes for them to come racing back down. And designing your own slopes is really the biggest strength of the game. Being able to twist and turn your courses down the mountainside, connecting up with other slopes, and choosing the difficulty as you go, indicated by different colours as you draw, and then watching the first visitors take them on and often hilariously fall flat on their faces, like I definitely would if it was me, is such a strong point of Snowtopia. And while your first visitors will likely want the easier green or blue slopes, you'll quickly get in some daredevils who are looking for the more challenging red and black slopes, and that's where your creativity can really kick in. But that isn't all that's needed to keep visitors happy. Alongside lifts and slopes, you'll have to construct a variety of services, such as restaurants to keep people fed, and shelters to keep them warm and get their energy up, alongside maintenance buildings, which aim to keep things running smoothly. There's the Snow Groomer Hangar to keep the snow smooth, Ski Patrol Lodge to help skiers who get into trouble, and the Mechanics Workshop to keep the ski lifts running smoothly. However, even at this early point in the game, we come across our first problem. Initially, there's only 2 ski lifts available for you to build, a 1-person lift and a 2-person lift, neither of which are really fast enough to deal with demand, and long queues to get up the slopes will start forming, and queues, unsurprisingly, mean unhappy visitors. In order to remedy that, you can build a research lab where you can research higher capacity ski lifts, replacing your 1- and 2-person lifts with anything up to 16. But that replacement isn't as simple as just clicking an upgrade button. Instead, you'll have to destroy your smaller lifts and replace them manually. While this in itself isn't perfect, it actually gets worse, as the new lifts don't fit in the same spot as the old lifts, either because they're just plain bigger and therefore are obstructed by more scenery or other buildings, or they need to cover greater distances. This means that your old ski slopes won't connect up with your new lifts, and in order to upgrade and get rid of the queues, you'll have to delete your slopes too and start from scratch. This, for me, is the first major issue that needs to be addressed in the early access period. What I'd love to see is just a button to increase the capacity on lifts, and therefore prevent me from effectively wasting my first 15 minutes of every new game with lifts and slopes that will have to be destroyed when the resort grows. Now, you might be thinking that all of that destruction of old lifts and slopes and then rebuilding them would cause an issue for your resort's profitability, and in games like Planet Coaster, Cities Skylines, 2 Point Hospital, you'd be absolutely right. However, in Snowtopia, there is no business management element. No money ever changes hands. All you need to concern yourself with is how happy your visitors are. Now, there is a form of resource management, as your resort is run by a team of volunteers, and the number of volunteers available to you grows as your resort grows. If you run out of volunteers, you can't staff any new buildings that you create. But the lack of actual money in the game, and the lack therefore of a drive towards profit, might put some players off. For me personally, it took away from some of the depth that the game could have had, and made it a much simpler experience. More relaxing, yes, but also for me, less engrossing. So money isn't an issue when constructing your resort, and assuming you have enough volunteers, you can just go crazy and build everything from the start, right? Well, no. As I mentioned briefly earlier, there's also a tech tree in Snowtopia, accessed by the research lab. And you're gonna want to build one of those research labs pretty damn quickly when you start a new game. Not only does it unlock new buildings, which can be significantly better than the ones you get at the start, but it also unlocks upgrades, which can make your existing buildings work so much more smoothly, such as increasing the speed of your ski patrols and making your maintenance buildings look more appealing, thus increasing visitor happiness. Unfortunately for the time being, these upgrades aren't displayed in any way in the graphics of the game. The models don't change if you say, add solar panels to your buildings. But this is a very minor nitpick and could easily be added in during early access. So, with your research lab having done its job, you can chain together ski lifts and create massive slopes, leaving your visitors happy and your reputation growing. And at that stage of the game, Snowtopia pretty much just ticks over without too much player interactivity. The lack of money means that you don't have to worry about being profitable, and there's no disasters or events in the game to keep you on your toes. Sure, you might have to occasionally put down another ski patrol lodge to keep people safe, or build an extra slope. But for the most part, there's not much to do once you hit this point. Snowtopia doesn't currently have a campaign mode, though it will be added in later, and that means there's no objectives in this game, nothing to strive for. And for me, that means I hit a point where the resort is running well, and there's no new problems on the horizon, so I ultimately lose interest. Now this happens a good few hours into every game, so I've definitely gotten my enjoyment out of it. And to be completely fair, I experience this same phenomenon when playing games like Cities Skylines. But in that case, it's usually after around 20 hours, not say 3 or 4. Now if you're just looking for something to play while you're watching a stream on your other monitor, then this game offers the casual experience you're after. But if you're looking for something more in-depth and challenging, you may want to wait until a campaign mode and events are added in. So at this point we've covered most of what I want to say about Snowtopia, but there's just a few things I want to mention before we wrap up. Firstly, the camera. It is extremely sensitive, with no option to turn it down. It seems to run into invisible walls regularly, and zoom levels when going over mountains don't stay consistent, meaning 1 second you're way above your resort, up in the clouds, and the next second you've got a screen full of snow, without ever zooming in. Secondly, some of the overlays just don't work. Like, you can see the length of queues and difficulty of tracks no problem by clicking the overlay buttons for them, but if you want to know the safety of different areas of your resort, or the appeal of different areas, then you're out of luck. Clicking these buttons just does nothing as far as I can tell. I'm sure that this is one of those things that will be remedied as Snowtopia's development progresses, but for the time being these options are in the game, but do nothing. Next, we need decorations to make our resort our own. Adding in these cosmetics would give a sense of ownership and creativity, allowing each of us to create something that is unique to us. Now there is a tab at the bottom of the screen which I suspect is for decorations, but after around 10 hours of play this is still locked out for me, leading me to believe that decorations aren't currently in the game. But the fact that this tab is here does give me hope that they are planned for the future. And the last little point I want to touch on here is the soundtrack. It's not bad per se, just extremely repetitive. That is, when it's on. It has a tendency to just cut out at random points, and come back whenever it feels like it. Now, I know it's been done before, but I'd love to see a radio station in-game. Something along the lines of, "Hello and welcome to Snowtopia FM, 57.1, the only place for your ski tunes." Or, you know, something done by an actual talented voice actor with a far better script, instead of some idiot like me. But it just needs something to add that bit of extra character to the game, and bring in some more tracks for greater variety. So then, on to the final question. Is Snowtopia Ski Resort Tycoon worth your money? Well, while there's still a lot to be improved here, there's also a ton of potential. And from what I've already played of the game, I've really enjoyed my time with it. It doesn't have the depth of games like 2 Point Hospital or Planet Coaster, but it does offer a casual, relaxing experience with great scope for creativity. Now as for pricing, we're looking at £19.49 in the UK or $22.49 in the US. And for me, that's a little bit on the steep side at the moment. I'd be much happier looking somewhere in the region of £15, and then I'd maybe be willing to pay that little bit more after it's been fleshed out in early access, assuming the support is good. There is currently a 10% launch sale on this one though, so if you like what you see and think it's worth that little bit more, then picking it up now might be a good idea. So that will about do us for this video. If you found it helpful or enjoyed it at all, let me know by leaving a like down below, tell me what you think of Snowtopia in the comments, and subscribe for more like this if you haven't already. I've also got a Let's Play video out for this one on my second channel to check out, and I should be back on this channel very soon with a look back at the PS4. Because, you know, I like to stay up to date and cutting edge with what I thought of an 8-year-old console. Anyway, enough from me. I've been Nathan, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.